If I use the N-word, it could quite possibly, and honestly probably should, cost me my career.
Go, Bunny. Peck of wood. Burrhead. Cracker.
Copeland was heard calling President Obama the N-word. Now, he was heard doing this during a private conversation in a restaurant. But then word got out, and many of the town's residents are outraged.
I'm going to be honest, as an African-American woman, if any Caucasian person ever says the N-word, it's not going to sit well with any African-American person.
N-word is different from many, many other words that everyone is always trying to compare to the N-word. As your segment at the beginning said, and I think it's correct, the black experience is different from any other experience in America. There is slavery, there is Jim Crow, so I really do resent it when people come along and say, well, you can't say the phrase illegal alien when you use the N-word. You can't say retard when you say the N-word. You can't say, I don't know, a million other things. They're always comparing it to the N-word. So the main point I want to make is no other word is like the N-word.
Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees.
I think it's important to teach emotional intelligence to students before they engage in these conversations, because they have to understand what they're feeling in that moment. I've seen these conversations get very passionate. People are crying, people are yelling, people are feeling all types of way. And you have to be able to manage those emotions, manage your own and also the other ones in the room. And I don't think that we're at a space to engage in that conversation.
See, you keep giving, you're giving the word too much power. I am making money off of doing music.
I'm not using it. You are.
I am making money off of doing music and being creative, sir. I'm not making money just because I use the N-word. Nobody goes to buy an album because it's full of the N-word.
Trinidad,
no, sir.
You wouldn't be on this show tonight if it wasn't for using the N-word in your rap music. Let's be honest.
No.
Rules and Crips all got along. They probably got me down by the end of the song. Seem like the whole city go against me. Every time I'm in the street, I hear waiting for
Wait. Am I not cool enough for you? What's up, bro? Fuck you, bitch! Fuck you! Fuck you, bitch! What's up?
My boy Rohan kind of knew the rules a little bit.
Will's just really cool, bro. You have to work with
You gotta bleep one single word, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I do it?
Yeah, you did it.
I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
Should she stay up here, y'all?
No, please keep me up here. I got you. I'll try. I'm used to singing it like a rodent.
I think people need to do their history, their research, even on music, right? Because I think what's popularized a lot is rap, and I distinguish rap very different from hip hop music. And rap, a lot of time, I feel is the mainstream. It's pushing messages that, you know, it's cool to turn up to, but it's not anything of substance. And a lot of people don't end up hearing the music of substance or understanding where hip hop came from and the storytelling that it is. And when these artists are telling these very vivid, very beautiful stories, a lot of the time they're using the language that's in their culture. And that's a whole other story, right, of how that word came into our vocabulary and how it's used and why it's used and whatnot. But for me, understanding hip hop and listening to it is more of an appreciation for the art form. And I think if you have an appreciation for the music and the culture that it comes from, you would even understand why it's in the music, why they're saying it. It's not giving you permission to say it because it's popular or cool. So I think when we can uplift Black people's art forms in a way that we can appreciate it and not appropriate what we're presenting or saying and things like that, then you would better understand why, even if it's in the music, you still shouldn't say it. I've heard the N-word used around me by someone who wasn't a person of color before. In the context, it's very uncomfortable because it's a very weighty word. It has a lot of history. It has a lot of violence behind the word. And the context and that's standing out to me, one story in particular, I was I think there was me and one other person of color in this establishment, and someone said, they weren't referring to any of us, I guess it was someone else coming, but they had said, "Where's that nigger?" And it was by a white person. For me, that's not a safe space for me to be, no matter if they knew the person and was their friend and they were comfortable saying it around one another. That's not a space for me to be in. Like, it doesn't feel safe.
Nigga, 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 fuck you, nigga, 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 you fucking, you a nigga officer, fuck you, nigga, nigga.
I think there is a correct way to approach someone who has used the N-word, especially if they're not a person of color. I don't think it should be necessarily on the people of color to be the ones to step into that space because it is a violent space. We can, but depending on your comfort level, one of the stories I shared, I wouldn't feel safe going up to a white person who just blatantly used that word in that manner and feel that I would not be harmed in that situation. I would not do that. I think that's where allies need to step in a lot of the times. Like, allyship is not a noun, that's cool. I'm an ally, like, that's nice. But what is the action behind it? How do you step in? How are you using your privilege to talk to your kinfolk about why it's wrong? If you know it's wrong or you see people feel uncomfortable, I think you should put yourself in the middle of that violence to mitigate that situation. So I think it's very appropriate to step in. I think a lot of times people want to go and save, the people that were harmed and whatnot and feel that that's being a good ally, but because I'll speak for myself, like, as a Black person, like, we're good. Like, I have my people I can go to. I know how to, that's probably not the first time that that's happened. So I need you to do your action part in making sure that you're doing what you can to stop that and to create a better environment for everyone.
Give me now, brother. Yes, sir, brother. Y'all, brother, this is how you kick down the wall. This is how you kick down the wall. Yes, sir. This is how you do it. I'm Cody, nice to meet you.
So yeah, I don't think that you can ban the N-word. I mean, if anything, if you look at human behavior, you want to then seek it out and figure out, like, why is it banned? Like, I want to do it. And, even I worked in higher ed for about 4 years now, and that's the N-word is a consistent problem, especially at PWIs. And what I found a lot of times, you know, administrators, we just want to say like, no, don't say it. I mean, we're at a place where we're supposed to be educating and challenging and getting into deep discussions, you know, about that gritty history. I mean, there's textbooks now that teach that African American slaves were indentured servants, right? So even right there, in the way that the N-word was used in that context, you don't even get the full weight of it. You don't understand it. So I think we're missing a lot of key conversations. So sometimes just saying, don't do that, like, but why? And I think we're missing the spaces where we can really, really get into the but why. If you really, really understand it, your empathy would kick in and you would second guess why you want to say that or how you feel about saying it. In the same breath, personally, when it comes to the word being used within the African American community, like I said, I can understand why it's there. I'm not going to condemn anyone for saying it, any person of color or specifically Black person for saying it, but even us, like I want us as a community to really reflect on the words that we're using and where we're going, because words are powerful. And I think we need to be more intentional about the words that we're using with one another. And I feel the same way about, you know, other pejoratives. You know, I don't want to call my friends like a bitch. That's not the type of energy and vibrations that I want to send to people that I love. And I love myself more than that, to refer to myself as a bitch or a nigga or anything like that. And that's just my personal belief, and that's, you know, just a mindset. So I can't say it shouldn't be there, but I think we should definitely as a community really, really reflect on it and reflect as a community where we want to go. And just because it's there, just because it's a habit, sometimes we could shed habits, you know? Our society right now, like, call out culture is stupid, and it's very prevalent in our society because I don't think it creates an environment to really engage in a healthy debate, right? Like, you can have a debate, you can agree to disagree, but we're not having the conversations that we need to have. I don't think we're having those conversations because we're not teaching people emotional intelligence, right? How do you engage in a conversation that is full of emotions and you don't know how to handle your emotions? Half the time, people don't even know what emotions they're feeling, right? So there's a lot of steps that we need to take in order to get to a space to have the discussions that we need to have. I think people have a better awareness now that some of those things are needed. But I feel like a lot of these buzzwords like diversity and inclusion and empathy and things like that, we know they're good, but do we really put in like the work, like the soul work to actually get there? I think that's missing. I think a lot of programming that we do, I think a lot of conversations just in general are very surface level. And I think we need to ourselves get to a deeper place and understanding of who we are before you jump into a conversation and try to tell me who I am. Everything's connected. So I think taking it from looking at the microcosm of a PWI to a larger context, the way that I think we're handling this N-word conversation, debate, whatever you may call it, we're taking steps to engage in the dialogue. I feel that our society as a whole, like, people were very surface level, and I feel that a lot of the programming that we do, I feel a lot of the conversations that we engage in tend to be surface level as well. I think it's important to teach emotional intelligence to students before they engage in these conversations, because they have to understand what they're feeling in that moment. I've seen these conversations get very passionate. People are crying, people are yelling, people are feeling all types of way. And you have to be able to manage those emotions, manage your own and also the other ones in the room. And I don't think that we're at a space to engage in that conversation. So I would like us to dig a little bit deeper with ourselves first, to understand ourselves. One reason why it's hard is if you hear someone call you something and you react to that, you gave that word power, for one, and two, you let somebody tell you who you are. So if you're not stepping into the space and know who you already are and are very confident and assured in that, then it becomes a very difficult discussion to have. I know myself. You can't tell me who I am, you know, so that's not even a part of whatever is going to happen in that conversation. So people really have to know who they are. And I mean, really think about, what does it mean for me to be Black? What does it mean for me to be a woman, a Black woman? Like, all of these identities, like, I have to understand that. And so I think we're getting to a space where people are starting to think about those things and become more aware. We definitely just have to keep the momentum going so that we can get to that place where we can have conversations and make progress and not just keep repeating the same thing over and over, because, like I said, this N-word conversation's not just at one school. Like, I've been to multiple schools. It's just a part of our society, and that's going to take some time and some effort and serious dedication from each individual, you know, to grow and push the conversation forward, push how we interact with each other forward.
Listen to this.
Racism. We are not cured of, clearly. And it's not just a matter of it not being polite to say nigger in public. That's not the measure of whether racism still exists or not. It's not just a matter of overt discrimination. Societies don't overnight completely erase everything that happened 200 to 300 years prior.